Hey guys, Miss Celaya here. We are going to be working with fractions, decimals, and percents this week. So again, I hope you're taking notes and paying attention to each individual thing that I upload for you. I hope you are doing well and everybody in your family is doing well as well. So percents simply mean that you've got something out of 100. So if I have 60%, what I really have is 60 out of 100. And then you can take that and reduce it like you would just a normal fraction. So divide both of them by 20, and you would wind up with a reduced fraction of 3/5. But what I want you to see here is that a percent simply means that number is out of 100. So if you had 7%, it would just mean 7 out of 100. If you had 101%, it would mean 101 over 100. So the percent always over 100. And then if you can, you reduce or simplify. So I reduced with this one by dividing them both by 20 like normal. This, because it's improper, 100 goes into 101 once and 1/100th left over. Then we can look at decimals to percents. And really what I should be talking to you about here is to convert from a decimal to a percent, you multiply by 100. But for the sake of time, I'm going to show you a nice little quick trick. To multiply by 100 means I move the decimal to the right 2 places. So 0.64 or 64 hundredths, move the decimal twice, would be 64%. It's always twice, exactly twice, moving to the right because we are multiplying by 100. So if you had 3/10 and I had to multiply by 100, this would not be 3%. 3.3 3/10 would be 30%, because again, I have to move that decimal over twice, which means I need to add in that 0 there. So move that over, I wind up with 30%. If you have a whole number rather than a 0, when you multiply by 100, if you think about it, 1 times 100, this is going to be over 100% because I have more than a whole. So if I move this decimal over twice, I wind up with 132%. And with this one, you notice that I've got a really small number, 9 thousandths, but I'm going to do the same exact thing. So I'm going to wind up with the decimal still in the percent, which is absolutely acceptable, of course. Move that decimal over twice, you wind up with 9/10 of a percent. Very tiny number, so it's a very small percent. And then if we go the other direction, if we're going from a percent to a decimal, again, the traditional way, what I should be looking at here is showing you that you're really dividing by 100, but the shortcut is just going to be the opposite. So if up here we're moving the decimal to the right 2 places, I'm sure you can guess that what we're going to be doing here is moving the decimal to the left 2 places. So if you have a number like 13% and there's no decimal there, you need to remember that if you have a whole number, the decimal goes at the end. So 13% decimal would be here. I would be moving it to the left 2 places. So 13% becomes 0 and 1300ths, or 0.13. 6%, again, if there's no decimal there, it goes at the end, and then I move it back again 2 places, always 2 places to the left. So 6% becomes 0.06 because I'm moving that decimal. I put it here and I'm moving it to the left 2 places. If your number already has a decimal in it, you don't move that decimal to the end. You keep it where it is, move it twice to the left. So 16.5, move it twice, you wind up with 0.165 or 165 thousandths. What you should be doing if you're writing this down is just pausing as we're going, or pause it here and make sure you have this. Moving along, we're going to look at converting from fraction to decimal using division, and then I'm going to show you another shortcut as well that you can use. Last week you should have reviewed your division skills. If that's still something that you're struggling with, I would highly recommend that you're working with your parents to make sure that you get really good with your division skills. If you're not, I would look and start working with HOODA math to build up your basic skills. HOODA, HOODA math. So looking at the fraction of 3/4, if you take your numerator and divide it by your denominator, so it's always going to look like this. This is not a matter of bigger, smaller, longer, shorter. It's always your numerator being divided by your denominator. This is inside, and we call that the dividend, and this piece is the divisor. Dividend, divisor, numerator, denominator. So to do that, since 4 is larger than 3, it doesn't go in until we break it into some pieces, and to do that, we are going to add a decimal and a 0. So I'm going to let you look at this answer as I show you. We did 4, we added a 0 here, 4 went into 37 times, 7 times 4 is 28, subtract 30 and 28, we get 2, and then we added another 0. Notice that I'm adding the 0 here into the dividend, not up in here where the quotient is. I noticed a lot of you during the year would add extra zeros up into the quotient. They only come here so that we can continue the problem. So we don't bring that remainder up, we continue the problem. 4 into 20 goes 5 times 4 is 20. So we could say that 3/4 is 75 hundredths, 0.75. Some of you may be looking at that and saying that you knew that because this is 3/4 and 3/4 is 0.75. Another way you can look at that, and this doesn't work with every single fraction, which is why this way is really, really important for you to learn. But if you can convert your denominator into a 10 or 100 or 1,000, then you can use that skill. This is times 25, this is times 25, 75 over 100 is 75 hundredths, which is this. So this is another way. I'm going to be showing you using the division, but this is absolutely acceptable. So if we had 19 over 40, again, 19 divided by 40, 19 inside. We're not worrying about bigger, smaller. Numerator is our dividend. Denominator is our divisor. So that one would look like this. We bring our decimal straight up. 40 goes into 194 times because 4 times 40 is 160. We subtract and get 30. We add a 0 so we can continue the division. 40 goes into 307 times, so that's the 7, times 40 is 280. Subtract, bring down our 0, and then 40 goes into 205 times. This one's a little bit longer, so if at any point you're struggling with this, go back and look at each piece. 40 went into 194 times, that gave me 160. I subtracted and got 30, and then I added another 0. 40 went into 307 times. 7 times 40 is 280. I subtracted and got that 20. I brought down another 0 to finally do 40. Goes into 205 times. And then we have our final answer, which is 475 thousandths. Again, you should be pausing and writing some things down, some notes to yourself. So let's look at another one that's really small, but this one is going to show you what a repeating decimal looks like. So this one would be repeating because if you did 3 into 10, it's 3 times. When you subtract, you get 1 and you add another 0, you're going to start noticing this pattern that's going. No matter how many times I did this, I would wind up getting the same exact thing. I would get 9 here. I'd get a remainder of 1, add another 0, you see 10, 9, 10, 9. We'd get the same thing. So what I do is I put a line over this, a repeat bar, to say that this is going on forever. And then the last one, 48 over 50. So I'm going to jump ahead. For those of you that say, well, I can do that by multiplying them both by 2, because you notice that 50 went into 100 evenly, then you can jump to this answer without any division. But if you look back up at this one, 3 doesn't go into 10 or 100 or 1,000, so that one may be something that this would be a better preferred method. So back to this one for the division, if you choose to use that method, again, numerator is my dividend. Denominator is my divisor. I had a decimal and a 0. 50 went into 489 times. Think about 9 times 5 is 45. So 9 times 50 is 450. Subtract, bring down that 0. And then do it again. 50 goes into 306 times. That gives me 300. I have nothing left over. So my answer is finished. I would pay attention to, for those of you that want to bring up your third quarter grade, I continue to add things in. You may notice that I've been adding in your ALEX, putting it back in and bumping your grades up. Every Friday, I'm going to be able to post those new grades so that you'll be able to see how your grades improved. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I miss you all. Bye.